Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Man, I am the host, T Money, and today I'm going to be doing my game recap on the Bears and Lions game. Now, the Bears came out and got straight up blasted this game and ended up losing 21-52. This was a return game for Ben Johnson, and surprisingly, he came out to boos. I'm not sure if the Detroit fans are hurt that he left or. Let's get straight to it. So in that first quarter, Jared Goff on the first play hit Amon-Ra St. Brown for a first down on a play action, a 9-yard gain. And I kind of noticed how comfortable Jared Goff was in the pocket. He felt absolutely no pressure. And the Lions on their opening drive had 5 plays for 60 yards, man. That was really tough to watch. You know, the defense seemed like mentally they just wasn't there. They wasn't in sync. Wasn't a lot of communication going on. Jahmyr Gibbs scores the opening touchdown on a 5-yard rush. And the Lions ended up going up 7-0. And you just kind of don't want to see that. You kind of don't want to see somebody just come down and march down the field so easily. You kind of want to see the defense, especially because of the last game that we had, having three outs in that first quarter. You kind of want to see that defense stay solid and stay consistent. So the first play ended up being a direct snap to DeAndre Swift, who ended up rushing for 5 yards. Then we ended up having another false start on the O-line. So then I kind of noticed early we was getting a run game going. DeAndre Swift had rushed for 20 yards for a first down. And out of the 3rd and 9, it ended up being a screenplay. Luckily, we got the first down. And the Bears ended up scoring on their opening drive, and it ended up being 7-7. It took 8 plays to get 74 yards. And then I kind of noticed early that the Lions were really trying to get Amon-Ra St. Brown involved in this game because he ended up coming out getting the first down. And then the Lions ended up going 3 and out. And then the Bears came out and ran the same play again, having a direct snap to DeAndre Swift, and the Lions defense read that play pretty well, and the Bears gained 0 yards off that. Another penalty on Jonah Jackson, number 73, holding, ended up being a 3rd and 8 completion to Zaccheaus, and I kind of noticed that he's like the new target when DJ Moore is getting double teamed. So then the Bears unfortunately go 3 and out. And then Goff was just making big play after big play, being so comfortable in that pocket. Goff, he came out in that second drive in the first quarter and was throwing bombs, man. He had a 32-yard completion to St. Brown. That ended up getting him to the red zone, and then David Montgomery ended up rushing it in. And the Lions went up 14-7. So then the Bears come out, ended up running the screenplay again. The second one in the first quarter, I don't know why we still running the screenplay. I'm so tired of seeing this play. Unfortunately, as we was trying to get Swift involved, he ended up fumbling. The score at the end of the first quarter was 7-14. So then I kind of seen in the second quarter the Bears defense did pick up a little bit. Goff had an incomplete to St. Brown, and they go 3 and out. So then Caleb ended up getting a 9-yard gain off Zaccheaus, so it was 3rd and 1. So we had we tried to do the tush push on back-to-back plays and got stopped on both plays, so Goff comes out, ended up throwing a flare screen to Jahmyr Gibbs, which didn't gain any yards. He actually lost 2 yards off that flare screen to Gibbs. Then Goff again tries to throw to St. Brown on an out route, and Jalen Johnson jumping the route, knocking it loose, but then he ended up injuring himself, so that's another loss on the struggling defense that we had today. We lost our best corner. So then the Lions, took a pretty crazy play. They attempted a 55-yard field goal, which ended up being no good. So then the Bears, once again, came out in that second quarter. Handoff to DeAndre Swift, who ended up rushing for 7 yards. So I do like how they tried to get the run game going. But then it ended up being a flag that pushed us back 2nd and 32. And this is just like the plays you just don't want to see from your young quarterback. Caleb got pushed back to 2nd and 32. And, he kind of felt the pressure from the lineman that rushed him, and he tried to just, he ended up getting tackled, so he tried to just throw the ball. You kind of wanted to see him throw it out of bounds. He ended up throwing it. A DB that, intercepted him. And then once again, Jared Goff in that second quarter just in the pocket with just no type of pressure and just went to work. A reverse handoff to Redmond on 2nd and 1 and ended up getting the first down. And David Montgomery ended up coming out in that second quarter and just was getting first down after first down on handoffs and reverse handoffs. They was opening the gaps, the Lions, and, David Montgomery rushed for 18 yards to put them down in the 1st and goal. So the Lions ended up throwing to Brock Wright on an 8-yard touchdown, and the Lions went up 7-21. You just cannot allow someone to just sit so comfortably in the pocket and just score, because it's going to be what it was, a blowout. There was some bright spots. Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, they have a good chemistry and reading each other. And on a 2nd and 10, he had a 21-yard completion to Odunze. So it kind of looked like they was getting it back rolling. And on a play action, they had another first down to Odunze. I don't want to see, a better play from the O-line. He ended up having to rush for a first down and ended up pushing us to a 1st and goal. A fake toss touchdown to Rome Odunze on a cross route. On that drive, Caleb went 4 for 5 with 50 yards, and the score was 14-21. And then once again, Goff came out and was just getting pretty easy yards. He had an 8-yard completion to Laporta, the tight end. First down completion to St. Brown, another completion to Laporta and St. Brown. And then their rookie Tesla made a crazy one-hand catch. I wish that the Bears kind of realized that Goff was really throwing heavily to St. Brown. He's like their best receiver. And he ended up getting a touchdown for him. And the score ended up being 14-28. At the half, Caleb Williams ended up throwing 14 for 19 for 136 yards, had 2 touchdowns and an interception. And Jared Goff went 16 for 21, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns. The man almost had 200 yards. Then coming out, the Bears got the ball back and another penalty. DeAndre Swift ended up having a false start, and the Bears was forced to a 39, an incomplete pass to Zacchaeus. And then Jared Goff came out, and this was his night. He came out with a 64-yard completion to Williams. The Lions ended up going 3 and out, ended up kicking a 34-yard field goal, and the score was 14-31. I kind of want to see a better job from the O-line. On 2nd and 6, Caleb gets sacked, and that pushed him back to 3rd and 16. So then we ended up going for it on 4th and 5, and the pass was tipped down, and we ended up going 0 for 2 on 4th down attempts. And I thought that we kind of was getting into our rhythm on defense until Jared Goff came back out on a 3rd and 8 and threw a touchdown to Williams for 44 yards. And at this point, I kind of knew the game was over with because it's pretty much over with, man. The score ended up being 14-38. And by the time it was the third quarter, we ended up having around 6 penalties. So that kind of played a big part on why we just wasn't successful with getting the win today. So the 6th penalty pushed us at 1st and 25. Caleb gets sacked, now 2nd and 34. Then the Bears go 3 and out. Then Goff comes out again, gets another first down. His 13th consecutive completed pass for the night. So there was literally no pressure on Jared Goff. He literally just sat in the pocket and just had his way, found everybody, and just got in his groove. And before the end of that half, Jahmyr Gibbs ended up running for 41 yards. So we couldn't stop the pass. We couldn't stop the rush. We just couldn't stop anything. Then on the 3rd and 5, in the beginning of the 4th quarter, on 3rd and 5, Jared Goff finds St. Brown once again for a touchdown, and his score ended up being 14-45. So we couldn't score and we couldn't defend. So it was pretty much we got blasted pretty much. And the Lions scored on 5 consecutive possessions, and it's just embarrassing, to know that you just look like a JV high school team out there. It was pretty bad. Bears came out, ran their 3rd screen play to DeAndre Swift, only gained 2 yards, and it ended up being 2nd and 8. Caleb gets sacked again for the 3rd time in the second half. So they just pretty much just shut us out. It ended up being a 37-yard reception. Caleb to a Doomsday on a slant route. And another completion to DJ Moore for 8 yards on the 2nd and 2. We ended up getting to the 1st and goal line, and DeAndre Swift out of the dot formation gets a rushing touchdown. So it was 21-45 at this point in the 4th quarter. And with the defense being on the field that much and we constantly getting 3 now, I kind of could tell by the time it was the 4th quarter, the defense was pretty much wore down, and it was pretty much over with. So the Lions come out. Jared Goff ended up finding Amon-Ra St. Brown again for another touchdown. And Stevenson, he was getting cooked all night long by St. Brown. After the score from St. Brown, the score was 21-52, and at this point, it was no point in watching this game anymore. Tyson Bagent got put in the game when it was 7 to 8 minutes left, so it's pretty much over with. The Bears waved the white flag, and the Bears get blasted at Detroit, 21-52. Now finishing that game, Caleb Williams was 19 for 30. With 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Jared Goff threw 23 for 38, 334 yards for 5 touchdowns. But I do want to see an identity from this Bears team. I do want to see them kind of play with a little bit more passion and kind of come out more aware on defense. And I'm giving this like a D. I'm giving this grade like a D minus, man. It was embarrassing to watch. This was probably like the worst loss I ever seen since I've been a Bears fan, and I'm just really disappointed. And I do want to see more on both ends. So thank y'all for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what y'all think about this blowout. See y'all next time.